Hey, what's up guys? Welcome to the top 5 PvP fruits tier list. In this video, we're going to learn the top 5 best fruits for PvP, as well as their best builds, races, fighting styles, swords, and much more. Real quick before we get into it, the 6 mythical scrolls giveaway is now ended, and here's the winner for that. And to the winner, I have added you and will message you after this video goes up. I mentioned last video I'm giving away a permanent Kitsune to celebrate 4,000 subs, and we're already at 5,000, so thank you guys so much for that. And if you want to enter the Kitsune giveaway, please be sure to like the video, subscribe, and comment, and next Sunday we'll announce the winner for that. Alright, now starting things off at number 5, we have the ice fruit. So ice is really good because of its extremely good combo potential, having some of the best stuns in the game, pretty underrated movement, and just being overall extremely noob friendly. So really quickly, let's go over ice's abilities. You have your Z ability, Cold Storm, which will shoot out a hurricane wherever you're aiming, that will briefly stun your target and break observation hockey if the enemy player is close enough. Do note that if they are too far away, it will not break observation hockey, and you do have to be relatively close for it to break it. Next up, we have the X Glacial Surge, which will shoot out a wave of ice wherever you're aiming and will break instinct if landed. For the third ability, we have the C, Frozen Dragon, which will launch out an ice dragon that will land wherever your cursor is, freezing anyone caught in it. With your fourth ability, the V, Absolute Zero, this is actually one of your best abilities and main combo starters, as this move is just really strong, breaking observation hockey and freezing anyone caught in the giant ice wave you put around yourself. This ability will basically make anyone you catch in it unable to do anything, letting you get a free combo. Last up for Ice's abilities, we have the F, Ice Skating, and this ability is actually pretty decent for movement. Its only downsides being that you can't really flash step while doing it, and you also can't jump more than once. That being said, you still do move pretty quickly, so it is a nice option. With that out of the way, let's get into best builds. So for races with Ice Fruit, your number 1 will always be Cyborg, making up for your lack of movement with Cyborg V4 Super Jump, along with the Race V3 ability confirming that your combos are unescapable. It is definitely deserving of its number 1 spot. You could also use Angel, but for this specific fruit, I'd really recommend Cyborg, as that will just be your best in slot option. Moving on to best fighting styles, I'm going to say this once because it will apply to every single fruit, but your best 2 options for these fruits are going to be God Human and Sanguine Art by an absolute long shot. These other fighting styles are usable, however I would not recommend them as they were nowhere near as good as the top 2. Reason for this being Sanguine Art's insane moveset, giving you great stuns, a 20% max HP heal, so around 3,000 health at max level, and for God Human being the best at starting combos and great at extending them. And if all that wasn't enough, both of these fighting styles have the best damaging combo potential, so there's literally no reason to run anything else besides maybe just wanting to have fun. Moving on to best swords, just like the fighting styles, I'm only going to say this once because it's pretty universal, but the best 2 options for literally every fruit currently are the Dragon Trident and Gravity Cane. These 2 swords just being absolutely broken, giving you everything you want from free kin breaking combo starters, combo extenders, and being the 2 easiest weapons in the game to play, they are just the most broken for every fruit. For ice specifically, another good option you could run is the Bacento due to its crazy damage, but like I said, the best 2 swords are the Dragon Trident and Gravity Cane. With that out of the way, best accessories for ice are going to be a tie between the Hunter's Cape and Pilot Helmet, both just giving you amazing passive stat buffs, along with just helping out with damage and your lack of movement in the air. Coming in at number 4, we have the Dough Fruit. So Dough is one of the best combo fruits we have in Blox Fruits, as every move breaks Ken, along with having really good stuns. This fruit is extremely powerful and only really has 2 real downsides, those being that you're very vulnerable while being teamed with Dough, as Dough's moves tend to leave you in place, making you unable to move or ending up in predictable spots. For example, after Dough's piercing clothesline, you'll always end up slightly above the ground where you're spinning the player you caught in it. And another problem is that the aerial mobility on Dough is non-existent, and the only really good move you have in the air to compensate for that is the Pastry River, but in most cases that's usually still enough. With that in mind, let's quickly go over Dough's abilities. For your Z, Missile Jab, it will shoot a Dough missile that will break observation and do damage to anyone caught in the blast. Moving on to your X, Pastry River, this ability actually has 2 different versions. The first one being on the ground, which will create this giant spike that catches and stuns anyone caught in it briefly, and then brings them back to the ground. With that in mind, if you use this ability while in the air, you will instead do a single target stun that breaks observation and will punch them around and then slam them to the ground. It is worth noting that while the initial hit does break observation, the other punches are dodgeable, including the slam. For your C, Piercing Clothesline, you have this ability which will turn you into a wheel of dough, and if you hit a target while you are in this form, you'll spin them around before finally slamming them to the ground. This ability can catch more than one person and is actually not observation dodgeable after being hit, only allowing the player to try and Ken trick after the slam is over. Moving on to your V, Dough Fist Fusillade. This ability has to be held build and will let you barrage your opponent with dough punches, while also allowing you to drag them closer to you or away from you, or just wherever you want. This is very useful when trying to combo someone, for example running the cyborg race, as normally they'll be able to do their V3 ability to stop your V. But if you just move them away from you and hold the ability down, you can usually run out the timer of their V3 and then just combo them anyways. Lastly, for your movement ability, you have your F, Scorching Donut, which is cool, and it's pretty slow to be honest. It can travel on water and scale up things, so it's not completely useless, it's just kinda sucky. Moving on to your best builds, the best races for dough are going to be your pick between Cyborg and Ghoul. Cyborg making up for your lack of movement when you're in V4, along with giving you good passive stat buffs during its great V3 ability. And Ghoul giving you good lifesteal when you're using your fighting style in your combo, along with lifesteal on all attacks while in V4. And the best part about Ghoul is when you pop your V3 ability, you can use abilities while they still have 40% of their cooldown left, making you be able to do some pretty great infinite combos with dough. For your accessories, I really recommend using either the pilot helmet or Kitsune ribbon, as they are just going to be the most useful ones based off the buffs they give you. Something like the hunter's cape, while a good accessory for other fruits, you typically wouldn't run it with dough because its primary focus is buffing sword or gunmate stats, so the 10% damage buff from that is pretty useless to you. Best fighting styles, as with any fruit, are going to be Sanguine and Godhuman, and for your best swords, I'd really recommend using either the Gravity Cane or Cursed Dual Katana, as they will just give you the easiest combos to do with dough. The Dragon Trident could work great too, but that's up to you, as the synergy isn't really there, and just kind of relies on both things being broken, which is like the only reason they work together. So run it if you want, but yeah. With that out of the way, moving on to number 3 on the list, we have the Rumble Fruit. And this fruit is really good for variety because you can run it with literally any build you want. It's amazing for fruit mains, gun mains, and sword mains. So if you're someone who likes trying different builds but wants to stick to mastering one fruit, this fruit is probably the best for you. Really quickly, let's go over Rumble's abilities. Starting off with your Z, Lightning Beast. You have this Lightning Dragon that if close enough to a target will have slight auto aim and does okay damage. And then you have your X ability, your Thunderstorm, which will briefly stun enemies and once again do okay damage. For your C ability, Sky Judgment, you have this giant Thunderbolt that will stun enemies, knocking them upward while also breaking observation. And you can aim this ability pretty far, but a lot of people think you can aim it further than you can. The range on it is okay, it's not the best, but it is good. And for the V ability, you charge up a Spirit Bomb from Dragon Ball Z and throw it, doing really good damage and giving you a really good stun. Its only downside being that there's a bit of end lag, so you can't just instantly combo someone after hitting them with it. And lastly, for your F ability, you have these 3 little teleports that will send you a decent distance, and is one of the best movement abilities in PvP, being able to instantly flash onto the air wherever you want. Moving on to Rumble's best races, the best 2 are going to be Angel and Cyborg, because of Angel's Flight combined with Rumble's F ability, giving you one of the best movement options in the game for PvP, along with having the amazing aura that can save you from combos, a good V3 ability that will heal you for 20% of your max HP, as well as giving you 15% defense to all attacks, and then Cyborg coming in as a close second, with its V3 always being good for combos, as well as the V4 being good for teaming and movement. But for Rumble, Angel is usually just better, as it is more useful. For your fighting styles, of course you're going to want Godhuman or Sanguine Art. However, other fighting styles can work depending on the sword you run. With that in mind, your top 2 swords are still going to be the Dragon Trident and Gravity Cane. However, Rumble is a fruit that also works okay with Superhuman and the Dark Blade if you have it, or if not, the Shisui could also be great. But to be real with you guys, these builds are nowhere near as good as Sanguine and Godhuman with the Dragon Trident and Gravity Cane. And I'm gonna say this before we get people mad in the comments, skilled builds do not equal good builds in terms of the meta, and there are things that a majority of people clearly use because it is more broken than the alternatives, and seeing people who are really good at PvP using something that's mid does not mean the majority of people can replicate that. With that in mind, since Rumble is a fruit that's very good at variety, if you're looking to be a gun main, then the best guns for you would either be the Acid Rifle or Bazaar Rifle, being just very high damage options along with being the best overall guns for gun mains. With that out of the way, moving on to number 2 on the list, we have Kitsune. So the Kitsune fruit has super high damage, and along with the moves being very strong, the fruit has very good movement, being even faster than Awakened Light in the transformation, and even granting you really good passive speed buffs in the hybrid form as well. You got a really good stun skill for your combo starter, as well as moves that can chain together after that combo starter. So with that in mind, let's go over Kitsune's abilities. For your Z move, it'll summon these blue fire flames that will circle the opponent for some time before hitting the opponent multiple times. For your X move, you get this little wheel that'll zigzag and can actually hit up to 3 players if they're lined up or right next to each other. For your C move, you got this big ball of blue flame, and when you cast it, the ball of flame will explode into a huge wave of fire, and this move also breaks Ken, so it's really good for combos. For your F, you got this little dash that'll do a few claw swipes, doing okay damage. And for your V, you got your transformation, which buffs up the moves a bit and changes them a little. For example, the Z will now bite them and shoot a bomb at them, The X will now pick your target up and slam them down. Your F gives a few more swipes and does a little bit more damage. The best races for Kitsune are a little bit more versatile, being that while the top two are Angel and Cyborg for the same reasons they are with Rumble, Ghoul can also be a fun option if you really want that 40% cooldown buff to just spam as much as possible. For your fighting styles, you want either God Human or Sanguine Art, of course. And for your swords, I'm going to be honest, normally I'd say you can run whatever you want, but I really can't stress enough how much you want either the Dragon Trident or Gravity Cane with this fruit. I really wouldn't recommend being one of those spiky Trident players whose entire combo gets Kentricked. And not to hate on the spiky Trident itself, it is a good sword, but its synergy with Kitsune is just trash compared to the Dragon Trident and Gravity Cane, so I really wouldn't recommend it. And finally, we have number 1, what we all know as the king of PvP fruits, Portal. This fruit has about everything you want, with good movement, inescapable combos, escape options, invincibility and invisibility, amazing stun skills. Like, there is literally nothing bad about this fruit besides how it is for grinding. But this is a PvP tier list, so that doesn't even matter. For the moveset, you have your Portal Dash, which is your single target stun. And this ability cannot be observation hockey dodged, and even if someone were to try, they just waste dodges and then be slammed down anyway, breaking observation no matter what. Next up, you have your parallel escape ability, which will turn you invincible and untargetable and invisible to enemy players for about 4 seconds. And something worth noting is that if you hold any other ability next to an enemy, the parallel escape will shoot out a beam that breaks observation, letting you get a free combo starter. Moving on, you have your World Warp ability, which will let you teleport to any island, and even letting you do it in the middle of combos, making it the game's best free positioning tool. And everyone's favorite, for your V, your Dimensional Rift ability, that will turn you into Gojo as you loop someone in the infinite void of Soul Guitar CDK combos. And lastly, for your Quantum Leap ability, it'll let you do a short teleport, and then it'll leave the portal there if you want to travel back through it if you decide to. So I've made a portal guide if you want to check that out, but to summarize the best builds from that video, if you just want to go there after this for the playstyle tips, then the best builds are as follows. For your races, the best is Angel by a long shot, with Cyborg being as close as second, but if you're planning on being a portal main, I just highly recommend Angel, as it is by far the best. For your swords, your best options are easily the Dragon Trident and Gravity Cane, once again. And something to keep in mind is that Portal can literally be ran with any sword, but these two options are not just by far the best in general, but they also just synergize with portals so perfectly. The only reason you wouldn't want to run them is because you get bored of how easy they make your fights. And with all that out of the way, thank you guys for watching. Let me know what kind of guides or tier lists you'd like to see next, because currently I'm debating between a control PvP guide or a dope PvP guide, similar to the way I styled the complete PvP guide and portal guide, but you guys let me know.